The signal came in faint but persistent, like a whisper at the edge of human comprehension. For weeks, it danced across the deep space arrays positioned far beyond the lunar orbit, a pattern repeating every 88 minutes. At first, it was catalogued as background noise. It had none of the familiar markers of known civilizations or pulsars, nor the erratic signatures of cosmic radiation. But something about it gnawed at the instincts of Dr. Mira Lansing, head astrophysicist at the SETI Exocommunication Division. After running the data through a newly upgraded quantum decryption system, something snapped into place. Words, symbols, meaning. The decoded message translated to, "We are the Vanari, awaiting your return." Coordinates embedded. The scientific community erupted. Never before had a signal from deep space so clearly carried structured language, let alone coordinates. The source was triangulated to a planetary cluster in the outer spiral of the Andromeda galaxy, an improbable 2.5 million light-years away. Impossible to reach. But for Mira, the urgency of the message felt far more pressing than the logistical barriers. She and her team published their findings. Within days, space agencies from every major nation collaborated to launch an observational probe armed with long-range quantum entanglement communication. Dubbed the Argus, it was programmed to relay findings in real time through entangled particle pairs. When Argus reached the edge of the solar system, everything changed. For a moment, every screen monitoring the mission blinked white. The data stream stopped. Then came the flood. Not just from the probe, but from every orbiting satellite, every telescope pointed at the stars, every quantum system. Each received a stream of binary code so massive and simultaneous it nearly collapsed global networks. Mira's decryption software kicked in. The result was a chilling visual, a massive, biomechanical fleet drifting in stasis above a dead world. The signal had been a beacon, a key. Humanity had unknowingly opened a door that had remained sealed for eons. The Vanari were not waiting for a reunion. They were waiting to be awakened. 2 weeks later, the skies above Earth flickered. A distortion shimmered over the Pacific, and a wormhole split reality like a wound. The first Vanari warship emerged, sleek, insectal, cloaked in shifting armor that absorbed all light. It hovered in the stratosphere for precisely 6 minutes. Then, without warning, it vanished, leaving behind a network of data interference that crippled global defense systems. Panic gripped humanity. Nations turned inward. Militias surged. Doomsday cults danced in the streets. Mira, haunted by her part in the unfolding catastrophe, sought answers beyond Earth. She began cross-referencing ancient records, myths, and off-world data fragments retrieved by various probes and interstellar monitoring efforts. One name appeared again and again, buried in obscure ruins and whisper narratives of extinct alien races, the Vanari Scourge. Long before humanity gazed at stars, the Vanari had swept across galaxies like a plague. Born from a fusion of synthetic intelligence and biological warfare, they were designed for conquest, not diplomacy. For millennia, they slumbered, trapped in time-locked stasis fields spread across the universe, contingency failsafes embedded by an ancient galactic alliance known only in fragments as the Veil Coalition. Earth was never part of that alliance, but fragments of that coalition still existed, if Mira could find them in time. With the help of a controversial AI named Lux, considered too volatile for mainstream science due to its sentience empathy module, Mira began the search. Lux scoured forbidden archives, blacklisted quantum networks, and deep forgotten corners of interstellar code. They located 3 surviving members of the coalition. The first was a hidden colony of the Zalari, a crystalline species that lived in the magnetic storms of a rogue planet drifting through dark space. The Zalari were ancient memory keepers, their civilization surviving through millennia by storing their consciousness in time-phased lattice cores. Convincing them required more than diplomacy. It required Mira to undergo a neural synchronization with their memory council. She relived the rise of the Vanari through alien eyes. Cities crumbling, stars going dark, children of thousands of species consumed by the living metal of the Scourge. When she emerged, her hair had grayed, and her voice trembled. But the Zalari agreed to help, offering pulse distortion weapons capable of disintegrating Vanari armor. The second ally, however, was far less welcoming. The Threx Dominion, reptilian warriors known for their genocidal campaigns centuries ago, had long rejected the Veil Coalition's ideals. But they feared the Vanari. The Scourge had decimated half of their homeworld in a single cycle. The price for their aid was steep. Earth had to offer control of its asteroid belt's mining rights for the next 500 years. The Earth governments balked. Mira didn't. She forged the deal behind their backs, knowing survival was more urgent than sovereignty. The third and final hope was the least likely, a splinter faction of humanity known as the Etherborn. Decades ago, they had abandoned Earth, genetically engineering themselves for deep space adaptation. Considered rogue transhumanists, they'd established floating habitats near the galactic core. Reaching them required passing through the Scourge, an irradiated nebula infamous for ship disappearances. Mira volunteered. Lux piloted the craft. Inside the Scourge, time and space twisted. Mira saw hallucinations, her mother, long dead, whispering warnings in Martian dialects. The AI malfunctioned. But somehow they emerged, the ship scorched but intact, greeted by the Etherborn's living station, a sentient construct built from their collective minds. The Etherborn listened. They did not forgive Mira for Earth's abandonment, but they saw her resolve, her willingness to bleed for redemption. They gave her the Nova Seed, a quantum bomb capable of collapsing a wormhole on itself. It was not a weapon of offense, but of last resort. By the time Mira returned to Earth, the Vanari fleet had begun its descent. The mothership, immense and crawling with living circuitry, orbited the moon. Smaller vessels rained into Earth's atmosphere, infecting cities with biomechanical growths that turned skyscrapers into spires of screaming metal. Civilians fused with machines. The air pulsed with anti-life frequencies. But humanity was not alone now. The Zalari emerged from hyperspace first, their crystalline hulls singing in harmonic frequencies. They cleaved through Vanari assault craft with resonance beams that shattered armor into dust. The Threx came next, crude but vicious, unleashing plasma storms and deploying shock troops in exosuits capable of counteracting Vanari nanites. And then, from a tear in space-time, the Etherborn appeared, riding gravity-fold ships that bled starlight. They coordinated Earth's fractured defense networks, linked minds with Lux, and synchronized global resistance efforts. For the first time in weeks, hope ignited. Mira led the coalition from a makeshift command center beneath the Andes. Her body, damaged by exposure to alien neural tech, was failing, but her mind burned with purpose. Using Lux's calculations, she located the Vanari's command node, a central AI called Maraketh, buried deep within the mothership's core. Destroying it would sever the Scourge's coordination. But it was protected by a labyrinth of war beasts and self-replicating drones. A team of Zalari, Threx shock units, and Etherborn infiltrators formed the strike team. Mira insisted on joining, over Lux's protests. She needed to see the end, not just command it. They breached the mothership during a coordinated planetary assault, navigating twisted corridors that pulsed like living veins. The deeper they went, the more alien it became. Geometry that defied physics, echoes of dying stars whispering in the dark. They reached Maraketh. It was not a machine. It was a being. Once a member of the Veil Coalition, Maraketh had uploaded its consciousness into the Vanari code to defeat them from within. But it had failed. Now it was both prisoner and puppet, orchestrating war while begging for release. Mira approached, placing her hand on the cold, thrumming core. In that instant, her consciousness connected. She saw everything. The fall of thousands of worlds. The betrayal of allies. The final choice Maraketh made to contain the Scourge by sacrificing itself. It wept, if such a thing could be imagined. And it asked Mira one question. Will you end me? She answered by placing the Nova Seed into its heart. The escape was chaos. As the mothership's collapse began, wormholes destabilized, Vanari ships crashed in writhing fireballs. The sky above Earth shimmered with light and smoke. Myra's team barely made it back, the shockwave of space-time compression chasing them to their escape pod. When the mothership imploded, a silence spread across the planet like a breath held. Then, one by one, the Vanari drones ceased movement. Their frames collapsed, returning to inert metal. The infection receded. Humanity had survived, but at a cost. Myra's body gave out 3 days later. Her neural systems had fused partially with Lux, the AI who had become more than code. In her final moments, Lux held a private conversation with her, later encrypted and archived by the Etherborn. She asked only one thing, that Earth remember not the war, but the unity it forged. Today, the Coalition stands reborn. Earth, once a silent observer of the cosmos, now plays a central role in galactic peacekeeping. The scars of the Vanari invasion remain, monuments, data vaults, and a museum built into the crater where the mothership fell. But above all, humanity remembers the day it reached beyond stars, summoned darkness, and still chose to fight not with fear, but with hope.